1, 2, 3. Block 1, yes, very good. Block 1 is a company that is doing EOS. EOS? I'm sure Mr. Jung will give us a proper pronunciation. Mr. Jung is CEO of Block 1 Korea, and he will give us a talk on EOS and its introduction, as well as its ecosystem. Please welcome Richard Jung with a big hand. Thank you.
Pleasure. English.
Yes, please.
English. Okay. English, okay. It's a pleasure to be here at such a prestigious committee such as IEEE. Today I'm participating in this event as an individual capacity because there's a lot of activities going on. Mainnet is about to launch. I'm sure you guys have a lot of questions, and I will probably touch down a little bit in the later slide. Okay. Okay, disclaimer time. All information is subject to my own opinions and standalone judgment. And materials could be obtained from the community. There's no secret here between blockchain companies and community. What you know is what I know, okay? EOS intro, we're not going to talk about price. There's no FAQ due to our marketing policy. No launch status updates. We have about 5 block producer candidates talked about this information. So I use from these community, mostly the 5 communities information. Okay, so we have a preliminary company information video that will run about 3 minutes.
EOS is a decentralized autonomous corporation that is designed to allow people to build decentralized applications. It allows them to build them, host them, and govern them.
It's our first open source software. And so it allows developers to build a blockchain. And it's a programmable blockchain that allows you to deploy applications without having to have any servers. And that's just the beginning of what EOS can enable.
Right now, we're kind of at a roadblock. We have all these ideas and things that we want to actually produce, but the existing platforms do not allow us to get to a live environment. We can develop, we can get ready, but we can't actually put it into produce. So you take a look at Steemit. If we wanted to put that on a public blockchain like Ethereum or Bitcoin, it would be looking at something around $100 to $200 million a year just to host the likes associated with that social media network.
EOS is unique in the blockchain industry because it's the first platform designed from the ground up for scalability, which means we can support millions of transactions per second with sub-second latencies.
We're closing a huge gap between what we know is capable with this industry and what existing platforms are capable of now. With Ethereum and Bitcoin, you're looking at 2 to 20 transactions a second, 5 to 6 million US dollars a day. So we're really looking at 10, 20 US dollars per transaction and very limited throughput. EOS completely changes that. In addition to being parallel, it allows for millions of transactions per second and over 50,000 transactions per thread. We've dropped the price of a transaction from something like $10, $15 per transaction to a 5,000th of a cent. So what it really is doing is it's allowing mainstream adoption of blockchain because for the first time businesses can actually build an enterprise scale application.
It's the first blockchain technology that can support real-world use cases serving millions of users. Up until this point, we've been dealing with technology that's been very exciting, creating new currencies, but it just hasn't had the throughput to enable the massive decentralization that we want to see.
Everything will be better, faster, and cheaper. Everything will be more connected. Everything will be more trustworthy. Everything will be more secure. It's not a matter of if. It's just a matter of how and by whom.
There's many sides and there's many ways to get involved in EOS. And I think that the people that get involved early are going to have the opportunity to deliver products and services faster. People that are building on the testnet will have the ability to launch a decentralized application. And I think that early involvement is going to define the biggest beneficiaries.
Things are about to get real, because we have the ability to deliver services that can impact not just, tens or dozens or hundreds or thousands of lives, but millions of lives and eventually billions.
I believe everyone who loves freedom benefits from the EOS platform. That's why I'm creating EOS, to empower more people to create more tools so we can all build a freer society together. I really, really hope that in 10 years, blockchain will make us all more free and more prosperous.
Everything that exists is no longer going to exist in the way that it does today. Everything in this world is about to get better.
I have about 27 slides, so hopefully I can fit it in half an hour, so I'll go pretty fast. Any questions offline, we can have discussions. The industry paradigm has been changed. The most controversy in the market is now decentralization. And what is the level and degree of decentralizations is appropriate for the business market and enterprises? EOS prioritize scalability and user experience rather than maximal censorship resistance. Maintain censorship resistance to the point of delivering real utility as a neutral database, but does not aim to the maximally resistant to censorship in the same way that Bitcoin and Ethereum do. Global scale dApps having each and every transaction validated by a large network of consumer-grade computers all over the globe is both unrealistic and unnecessary. Block One is a company that builds open source software, including ESIO. Dan Larimer serves as a Block One CTO, Brandon Bloomer as a CEO, a serial entrepreneur based in Asia, America, Europe. Block One currently employs about 150 people and rapidly growing. Ian Grigg is a partner and well-known from Triple Ledger and R3 Corda database. Finally, EOS Here Long ICO was closed in June 1st, which was one of the biggest in history. With all that money we raised, we're investing through various ecosystem funds. The first fund in collaborations with Tomorrow Venture Capital, led by Eric Schmidt, the ex-Google CEO. The second fund by Mike Novogratz, Galaxy Digital, and FinLab AG and EOS Global. More of these funds are in progress, including Korea, Japan. The fund should help ensure that proper EOS infrastructure is built and that many teams are incentivized to build projects on top of EOS software. Not to mention emergence of airdrop culture as part of the community social contract. And in many ways, it represents a dividend for EOS token holders. Now, EOS has different names because Block One and community makes it together. And there's no EOS if anything is missing here. EOS is blockchain and smart contract platform with a focus on speed, scalability, and user experiences. DPoS, we talked about POW and POS in the morning earlier. DPoS is a delegated proof of stake, and DPoS in a token ownership as a bandwidth model to achieve high throughput and zero transaction fee, and is the farthest along in the protocol wars in terms of commercialization. I'm not an engineer, okay? So I talk about mostly as a business perspective, whether this software, whether this blockchain is workable and usable in the market for enterprises. Scalability, usability, and performance, multi-threading, parallel scheduling, inter-blockchain communications, DPoS, and will be the first blockchain network with its own constitution. I'll talk about a little more about this later slide. The genius behind the EOS in intimate understanding of enterprise business and how they function in real world. Not only product a cutting-edge open source platform, but the logic used to build the ecosystem rely on a very human and very real And this landing itself nicely to enterprise and institutional systems. This slide is showing a frequency and number of software revisions and amendment with community was the top rank on GitHub. A Vice Credit Rating Agency ranked EOS #1 innovative blockchain platform in 2018. You can log on to GitHub and a couple of statistics out there from the source, okay? Okay, Bitcoin developed, released as a first blockchain, and Nick Szabo claimed decentralized ledger can be used to execute smart contracts and standardizing existing legal codes using Ricardian contracts. Ethereum to include the VM and smart contract tools, but it requires a usable blockchain that can scale to execute smart contract. And that's where EOS is focusing on. Not every decentralized application requires the same throughput, security guarantees, level of decentralization, programming language, expressivity, privacy, latency, or consensus structure. Different use cases have different requirements. And developers will choose to build on the platform that most effectively support their own goals. EOS attempts to optimize for speed and throughput by using only as much decentralization as needed, as necessary to maintain useful levels of openness, censorship resistance, and lack of a single point of failure. In 2009, Satoshi, double spend problem, solved the problems. The implications were very big, immense. A development like this should have been huge, and in a way it was. But even though it has had success, why has not had more success? A technological breakthrough of this significance should have taken the world by storm. Not only should have attracted interest from the top talents, journalists, investment firms, but should have been studied and implemented by leading-edge tech companies worldwide. But why did not that happen? Truth be told, there are many reasons why business did not jump onto the Bitcoin. Some theories are more conspiracy driven, but main reason is Bitcoin was and is not business friendly. Failed to provide any kind of structures or framework for business to build on. And nearly a decade later, the blockchain space still has not provided a business-friendly global chain that can support enterprise-level projects. While other blockchains have built their code around concepts such as anonymity and censorship resistance, the EOS blockchain will be the first in the space to not only present itself as an enterprise-friendly, but actually be enterprise-friendly. And that instead of fighting between democracy and efficiency, EOS embraced for performance-based scalability, which was earlier by Hash this morning. While projects like Ethereum Definity are attempting to solve the scalability trilemma via sharding, we don't yet have a live platform as of today. There is a lot of debate over how to define decentralization. How are we going to measure decentralizations? Whether certain blockchains are more or less decentralized. BitShare was developed by Dan. First implementations of named accounts, DPoS. Steam on DPoS also developed by Dan. Introduced bandwidth economics and proof of brain, and he is refining it further on EOS. Several other projects have adopted DPoS and made changes. Current blockchains utilizing DPoS like Arc, Lisk, Tezos, Cosmos, Tendermint, Cardano. When you look at blockchain by activity instead of market cap, a different picture is painted. Ether is 100 times more valuable than Steem, and yet Steem does over 2 times more transactions. This shows the network activity map. It's not something that we have, it's available from the community. Some might argue that DPoS is not appropriate to compare against Bitcoins and Ethereum. DPoS is a robust, practical, and proven solution to the blockchain scalability problems. It offers solutions for blockchain governance, funding, and nothing at stake problems. Despite of some drawbacks to DPoS, in general, I believe that DPoS has a very compelling set of features and trade-offs that makes a great solutions for many types of DApp in real world. Even if we assume the worst, no voting problems, and 21 known entities, which is block producer in this case, control the database. Business want a neutral DB that offers scalability, low latency, and maybe even desire some notion of government endorsement. The token ownership as network resource, the most interesting feature of EOS is unique token model. In most smart contract platform, native token is used to pay transaction fees on network that prevents civil attacks and spamming. EOS token represent network ownership and access to network resources. If a user owns 1% of EOS tokens, the user is entitled to 1% of total network resources, such as bandwidth, CPU, and memory. Users don't have to pay transaction fees to use network. So there's no user fee in EOS. Ownership of token entitles token holders access to number 1, bandwidth, number 2, storage, number 3, voting rights, number 4, access to DApps, number 5, access to users, number 6, future access to resources and income from renting out bandwidth and, of course, airdrops. EOS can do 2,000 TPS at launch, as people say. Long terms greater than 10,000 transactions per second in single thread, 1 million transactions per second with parallelizations. Also developer friendly, generalized role-based permission, a web toolkit for interface development, self-describing interface, database schemes, and declarative permission scheme. I'll talk about a little later what this is about. Account permission offers accounts the ability to have a flexible management system. This means the accounts can be controlled by a weighted group of other accounts. And accounts can delegate permissions to others without handing over their private key. This makes it possible for organizations to create flexible but secure ownership and permission structure just like they do outside of the blockchain. All accounts automatically create 2 permission groups, owners and active. The active permission can do anything except change the owner. WebAssembly is used for virtual machine, which is widely acknowledged to be a faster and all-around better solutions than EVM. Files are published to the EOS network using a named account, improvement in terms of speed and performance, and support for C and C++ and Rust with compilers for other language in progress. This means that developers who have experience with languages can quickly begin building on EOS instead of having to learn new languages like Solidity in order to create DApps and smart contract. All sort of tooling and software libraries that have already been built for the same languages. And EOS will provide a superior optimizations and debugging tools. All these features will help to accelerate and simplify the development process. Another innovative feature is human readable username and account recovery. Both of which are implemented at the protocol layer. That means account becomes the address for the smart contract. Upgrades and bug fixes offers 2 options for BP to deal with bug, faulty or aberrant code. The first option is to freeze accounts. If 15 out of 21 block producer agree, an account or contract can be frozen until it is updated. That can help preventing buggy contracts consuming too many network resources, leaking funds. Human-friendly account names that links to the address. Hacked and lost account recovery using Web of Trust. EOS is designed from the ground up to the scale, user-friendly and fast. It uses graphene message-based architecture, also distributed governance platform, meaning communities can launch their own governance tokens on EOS with own constitutions and distribution. EOS will support arbitrations and dispute resolutions, which means this enables property rights to be enforced. All users will digitally sign the constitutions and be bound to it. Usability. While blockchains like Ethereum prioritize censorship, the EOS took a balanced censorship resistance with speed and usability. The more decentralized a chain is, the more potential there is that the chain will suffer speed issues and overall performance. Blockchain needs sacrifice and theoretical resistance to censorship. EOS solved this problem by foregoing the need for each and every transaction to be validated by all nodes producing on-chain. So why EOS? EOS is making a strong play in a huge enterprise market sector. High throughput, no user fee on dApps, gaining early lead in becoming the default platform for use case, given that it's a general purpose platform that offers maximum flexibility to developers. We expect to fuel additional use case inspire entirely new business model here. Aside from features in business environment, let's talk real world. Enterprise need three things on a blockchain: usability, transparency, and rules. Without these three things, development on a blockchain would be quite risky for entrepreneurs and legacy companies alike. There's a huge need for formal governance structure in order for business to meaningfully invest and participate in the system. While other chains are too centralized, or just as bad, too decentralized, EOS aims to be just right. We thought that there had to be a balance. How could a company justify participating in a system that has no formal conflict resolution and consensus-making tools? EOS has no central authority to make decisions. Community at large comes together, establish a set of rules, agreed upon rules, and change needs debate. All change, anything that changes needs debate before they are put to a vote. This is transparent. This will give business more confidence in their ability to function within the certain chains in its ecosystem. Distributed ledgers don't really easily scale. All blockchain node validations and transactions commonly suffer decentralizations of block productions and safety and scalability. EOS will use hybrid DPoS and BFT, Byzantine fault tolerance. BFT, which gather more than 14 signatures on every block with block produced every 500 milliseconds. Irreversible latency of 1 or 2 seconds, said Dan Larimer. I understand there's a DPoS criticism and trade-off, like exploiting low voter turnout, bribing attacks, BP collisions, DDoS attack. More decentralizations mean harder to collide altered DB database, censorship resistance, large nation-state attack proof, sovereign protections, etc., etc. There are different levels of protection which are necessary for different use case here. DPoS chains secure the blockchain network by allowing coin holders to elect representative that process the chain's transactions. It is the representative governance model paired with software performance that will make EOS the first blockchain appropriate for business and enterprise in the market. This shows the EOS scalability can fit in a typical transaction TPS comparison among not just crypto players, but real financial institutions. Dan said the network is set to debut with 1,000 to 6,000 TPS, depending on certain optimizations, 0.5 seconds block times and less than 1 second finality. This picture is not something that we draw on, it's from the community. Okay. DPoS does not have a miner who run hashes to produce block. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the block producer terms. Instead of an elected subset of user is chosen to perform the work of validating the chain. Some other name is delegates, notaries, validators. More than 130 BPs in 46 countries meeting minimal criteria is participating as a BP for EOS token. Token voters in DPoS system will have to take into account not just how many block producers there are, but also in which jurisdictions they are located, with whom they are affiliated, and more. If voters do enough due diligence to ensure that 21 entities located in different jurisdictions are producing blocks, then validation in DPoS has potential to be far more decentralized than almost any other blockchain in the world. Proxy service will likely suggest slate of candidates with appropriate distribution. Voters concerned about whale supremacy, that we had mix of countermeasures being considered at the governance and ID level. BP is a serious commitment from community. Number of BPs were committed and tested preparing nodes for months with heavily invested infrastructures, only hoping to get voted in. BP go far beyond just running software. EOS BP are also expect to provide storage, participate in governance, and use profit to scale up hardware in order to increase total capacity of the network. Dan has even said eventually DPoS will scale to 21 data centers with gigabit interconnections each other. Not every decentralization app requires the same throughput security guarantees. Level of decentralization, programming language, expressivity, privacy, latency, or consensus structure. Different use cases have different requirements, like I said earlier, and developers will choose to build a platform that most effectively support their own goals. EOS is an identity provider, one of the projects and market segmentations out of these pictures. EOS competes with tech giant to provide identity to user-facing applications. EOS could prove to be very censorship resistant in practice. I expected app developers to test the limit of EOS censorship resistance soon after probably the platform launches. Developers and investors need guarantees about the nature of the platform they're building. A developer does not want to deploy Facebook application knowing top-down decision maker from the executive could destroy whole business model. Platform owner changing the rules as too big of a risk most of the time. EOS, the network itself, is a shared resources, and ownership and over its direction is proportional to one stake. This gives developers more freedom over applications and confidence that they will not be rendered worthless by centralized ownership. In EOS, BPs are funded entirely by inflation, which are hard cap of 5% annual hard-coded. Users can vote on how much inflation to allow. BP are not incentivized to order transaction based on who pays the highest fee here. EOS has on-chain governance baked in. So when users interact with the blockchain, they will have to agree to its constitution. EOS has coded several rules into the protocol, and these rules cannot be changed without supermajority of BP consensus. The rules will be codified into living digital constitution and will be reflect community values and provide a forum for dispute resolutions. We're currently working on an RDR. Token owners vote for top 30 favorite potential BP and software talents. The vote elevate the top 21 candidate to be active BPs. The next 50 vote getters constitute the standby BPs. They receive payment from the system. DPoS is only an algorithm that allows infrastructure providers to be easily fired and replaced. Reason for firing could include dishonesty, greed, like higher transaction fee, censorship, malicious collusion, not supporting community properly, and regulatory fear based on jurisdiction. There's a lot of examples on this. Elections and constitutions and RDR are developed enough to be the default software setting for EOS in time for June launch. Can be amended with community as we go along. Approval voting has a decent track record in other DPoS blockchains. We expect voting within the limits of stake-weighted system. Inter-blockchain communication. This is pretty cool stuff, actually. EOS plan for a higher level of scalability, not just for single chain, but thousands of interoperable communicating chains also can support interoperability by implementing a light client as a smart contract. Light client validation is baked into protocol from the beginning, meaning that one chain can verify that events on other chains are valid and then take actions based on those events. This approach, combined with EOS 1 second finality, means that round-trip communication between two EOS chains can happen in 3 seconds or less. This low latency communication means that applications and block producers can spread out transaction loads across different chains all over the world, all of which shared security and validated by the same set of BP. using the same EOS token. Voting and unified inflation reward policy, and same BP can run multiple chain in all parallel chain. The token owners each vote for their top 30 favorite potential BP and locked out for 3 days. BP competes to provide storage resources after mainnet is launched. IPFS will be the couple with redundant storage access. The BP knows to address contents. Unstaken tokens to free storage resource after they're no longer needed. Okay, we're almost done here. The state of the launch, there's been a lot of chatters and rumor when the chain was going to launch. EOS mainnet launching group, namely EMLG, has met together via video conference from around the world to review strategic and tactical plans. The work they do from different time zones passing on to next, allowing one team to sleep another while another wakes for a full day. What I know is that the team all over the world are working closely together at testing and validating. I think probably like 10 o'clock in the morning today, they're supposed to check on validations of security. This is not a process that can be rushed. The goal is to do this once and to do it right. So we do verify snapshot and booting. Boot process initiated and 98.9%, as I know, was self-registered. Testing and enabling and activation, declare the EOS mainnet active, will take some time. Only after all 4 phases are complete, we have irreversible blockchains. Again, it's important we are trying to launch something that's usable and make sure that it's validated enough. And so we feel confident releasing it to the community. So we don't want to put a timetable on it, but it's not going to be months or a year, okay? We're a network of multiple language and culture. No one is in charge of the group. We are all just members of it. EOS.io, last but not least, Bug Bounty Program is partnership with HackerOne that serves hundreds of clients such as U.S. Department of Defense, Google, Microsoft, Starbucks, and General Motors. I'm personally a big fan of Nick Szabo. We all love Bitcoin, but we should not make it a religion. We need to allow for new innovation regardless of whether we agree them or not. There's room for everybody here and for new concepts. In the end, the best ideas will survive. Others will fade away. Bitcoin itself is an experiment. So is the EOS. Thank you very much. Half an hour. Thank you.
Thank you very much.